नाम संकीर्तन की शिकोपात की. So kindly forgive me. I was doing this Bhumi Pujan, so I became late. I didn't expect it will take so long. So can we just start with prayers? Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yota Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सगना ललिता श्री विशाखामितां स नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णाभ्यक्षाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरसे नमः. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्याम जगन्नाथाय ते नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. निष्किञ्चनो ननु भवान् यतो अस्ति किञ्चित् यस्मै बलिं बलिभुजोऽपि हरन्ति अजाद्या नात्वा विदन्त्यसुतृपो अन्त्यकम् आड्तान्दा. प्रेष्टो भवान् बलिभुजामपि तेऽपि तुभ्यम् निष्कञ्चनो ननु भवान् यतो अस्ति किञ्चित् यस्मै बलिं बलिभुजोऽपि हरन्ति अजाद्या नात्वा विदन्त्यसुतृपो अन्त्यकम् आढ्यतान्दा. प्रेष्टो भवान् बलिभुजां पितेऽपि तुभ्यम्. Can we repeat? Hare Krishna. Mataji. What word meaning? Niskinchanaha, without possessions. Nanu, indeed. Bhavan, you. Na, not. Yataha, beyond whom. Asti, there is. Kinchit, anything. Yasmai, to whom. Balim, tribute. Bali, of tribute. Bhujha, the enjoyers. Api, even. Haranti, carry. Aj Adya, headed by Brahma. Na, not. Tva, you. Vidanti, no. Asutripaha, person satisfied in the body. Antakam, as death. Ardeta, by the status of wealth. Andhaha, blinded. Prishtaha, the most dear. Bhavan, you. Bhali Bhujam, for the great enjoyers of tribute. Api, even. Te, they. Api, also. Tubhyam, are dear to you. Translation, Prabhu. Here Hindi also. Translation. You possess nothing because there is nothing beyond you. Even the great enjoyers of tribute, Brahma and other demigods, pay tribute to you. Those who are blinded by their wealth and absorbed in gratifying their senses do not recognize you in the form of death. But to the gods, the enjoyers of tribute, were the most dear as they are to you. Purport. By the disciples of his Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila ki. Purport. Here Srimati Rukmini Devi replies to the Lord Krishna's statement in text 14. Niskinchana vayam sasavan niskincha jana priyaha tasmat prayena nahi adhya mam bhajanti su madhyame. We have no material possessions and we are dear to those who similarly have nothing. Therefore, O slender one, the wealthy hardly even worship me. Queen Rukmini brings her statement by saying, Niskinchano nanu, you are indeed Niskinchan. The word kinchan means something, and the prefix nir or as it appears here, nis indicates negation. Thus, in the ordinary sense, niskinchana means one who does not have something, or in other words, one who has nothing. But in the present verse, Rukmini states that Lord Krishna possesses nothing, not because he is pauper, but because he himself is everything. In other words, since Krishna is the absolute truth, all that exists is within him. There is no second thing, something outside the Lord's existence. For him to possess, for example, a man may possess a house or a car or a child or money, but these things do not become the man. They exist outside of him. We say he possesses them merely in the sense that he controls over them. But the Lord does not merely control his creation actually exists within him. Thus, there is nothing outside of him that he can possess in the way that we possess external objects. The Acharyas explains Niskanchan in the following way. To state that a person possesses something implies that he does not possess everything. In other words, if we say that a man owns some property, we imply that he does not own all property, but rather some specific property. A standard American dictionary defines the sum as a certain indefinite or unspecified number, quantity, etc., as distinguished from the rest. The Sanskrit word kinchan conveys this sense of a partial amount of the total. Thus, Lord Krishna is called Niskinch to refute the idea that he possesses merely a certain amount of beauty, fame, wealth, intelligence, and other opulences. Rather, he possesses infinite beauty, infinite intelligence, infinite wealth, and so on. This is so because he is the absolute truth. Srila Prabhupada begins an introduction to the first canto, volume 1 of the Srimad Bhagavatam with the following statement, which is quite relevant to our present discussion. The conception of God and the conception of the absolute truth are not on the same level. The Srimad Bhagavatam hits on the target of the absolute truth. The conception of God indicates the controller, where the conception of the absolute truth indicates the summum bonum, or the ultimate source of all energies. Here, Sri Prabhupada touches upon a fundamental philosophical point. God is commonly defined as the supreme being, and the dictionary defines supreme as highest in rank, power, authority, highest in quality, achievement, performance, highest in degree, final, ultimate. None of these definitions adequately indicates absolute existence. For example, we may say that a particular American is supremely wealthy in the sense that he is wealthier than any other American. Or we may speak of the Supreme Court as the highest court in the land, although certainly, although it certainly does not have absolute authority in all political and social matters, since it shares authority in these fields with the legislature and the president. In other words, the word supreme indicates the best in a hierarchy. And thus the supreme being may merely be understood as the best or greatest of all, but not as the source of all other beings, and indeed of everything that exists. The Srila Prabhupada specifically points out that the concept of the absolute truth, Krishna, is higher than the concept of a supreme being. And this point is essential to a clear understanding of Vaishnava philosophy. Lord Krishna is not merely a supreme being, he is an absolute being, and that is exactly the point his wife is making. The word Niskanchan indicates not that Krishna possesses no opulence, but rather all opulence. In that sense, he accepts his definition of himself as Niskanchana. In text 14, Lord Krishna also stated, Niskinchan Janapriyaha, I am dear to those who have nothing. Here, however, Rukmini points out that demigods, the wealthiest souls in the universe, regularly make offerings to the Supreme Lord. We may assume that the demigods, being the Lord's appointed representatives, know that everything belongs to him, in the sense that everything is part of him, as explained above. Therefore, the statement Niskinja Janapriya is correct in the sense that since nothing exists except the Lord and his potencies, no matter how wealthy the Lord's worshippers appear to be, they are in fact offering him nothing but his own energy as a loving act. The same idea is exemplified when one worships the Ganges river by offering Ganges water, or when a child gets money from his father on the father's birthday and buys him a gift. The father is paying for his own present, but what he is really interested is in child's love. Similarly, the Supreme Lord manifests the cosmos, and then the conditioned souls collect various items of Lord's creation. Pious souls offer some of the best items from their collection back to the Lord as a sacrifice and thus purify themselves. Since the whole cosmos and everything in it simply the Lord's energy, we may say that those who worship the Lord possess nothing. In more conventional terms, people who are proud of their great wealth do not bow down to God. Queen Rukmini also mentions these fools. Satisfied with their temporary bodies, they do not understand the divine power of death, which stalks them. The demigods, however, who are by far the wealthiest living beings, regularly offer sacrifice to the Lord, and thus the Lord is most dear to them, as stated here. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Nitai Gaurang ki. Hare Krishna. So kindly forgive me, I became late. Our Bhumi Pujan went longer than expected, much longer. So this purport itself is pretty powerful, very powerful. Because in text number 14, so earlier Krishna was telling Rukmini that how he is not qualified to marry Rukmini, and Rukmini did a big mistake by marrying Krishna. And then Krishna says that still there is a opportunity, you can marry anyone else. So as Acharya explained, and yesterday Achantu was also telling that by that time Krishna already had children and grandchildren. So on a logical plane, on a logical sense, it made no sense that no old men and old women are saying that no, you can get divorced. One devotee was telling me, I think Purushottam Nitayapur, someone, or some other devotee. So his grandparents are like 70 plus, and still they fight and they say, I'll give divorce. So nobody will take the divorce very seriously. 70 plus, there is no question of divorce. And Krishna is telling to Rukmini that still you can choose someone else as the husband to invoke little anger in Rukmini. At least Rukmini could have spoken that, see your age, see my age, Is there any question of divorce? Of course, Krishna looks very young. But then surprisingly, what had happened is Krishna, who is Rasraj, who is expert in withdrawing the emotions of the devotees, certain emotions, failed here. Because Rukmini's emotion of being submissive was very, very great. Anyway, the queens of Dwarka were always very fearful that Krishna will leave me. And because of that, they were always in anxiety. So they would think Krishna is so qualified person, no, he is not attached to anything. So he can anytime leave me. And because of that constant anxiety, when Krishna spoke that you can marry someone else, Rukmini thought that Krishna is really going to leave me. And that is the reason Rukmini faints. But now we find that Rukmini is counteracting Krishna's statements one by one. So this was in text 14. Krishna is saying, as far as we are concerned, Niskinchana Vayam Saswan. We all are like paupers. I don't have anything. Niskinchana Janapriyaha. And I am also dear to people who don't have anything. मैं फक्कड़ मेरा भक्त फक्कड़ मैं फक्कड़ मेरा भक्त फक्कड़ I am a pauper and my devotee is also pauper. Both of us don't have anything. And Krishna has some, if you see externally, he has some significant reason why he is speaking like that. So he says that as far as you are concerned, you are princess of Vidarbha, big state, Vidarbha. And Dwarka is there in the state of Anrata. As far as I am concerned, we don't have such a big state. We have a small state called Anartha. Capital of that is Dwarka. That too, I am not the king of Dwarka. I am just a minister. Like my father Vasudeva is a minister, was a minister of Ugrasen. I am being his son also. I am also like a minister. I am not even a king. And you are princess of Vidarbha. Why did you marry me? So in that sense, he said that I am a pauper. My worshippers are a pauper. We don't have anything. As far as Sisupal is Chedi Raj, he is a prince of Chedi. So all these big people, they were mad after you. They wanted to marry you. And you did such a mistake of rejecting all these fellows and marrying person who is not even a king. I'm just a small minister. And then what Rukmini says, and one more thing Krishna speaks is that because we don't possess anything, we are also actually speaking, we are not even attached to anything. Person who is attached, he can nicely take care of things. It's like, people are attached to a certain thing, then they exhibit control over that thing, and then they nicely take care of that thing. Like public properties are generally the neglected ones because people don't know that we don't possess them. So they remain dirty places, nobody cares for them. But private properties, people take care very nicely. This belongs to me. So that is why one has to give a sense of possessiveness of a person if he wants to maintain that particular thing. If you remove that sense of possessiveness, then person doesn't take care. So some sense of possessiveness is required. Now certainly there are certain people on duty platform, they are different. They're like even higher. But otherwise we see that some sense of possessiveness has to be there. So Krishna says, no, we are niskinchana. So I am a detached person. We have no doership mentality. We don't have any maintenance mentality. So we can't take care of you. And all these kings, they were so lusty after you. They they would have been just like some tamed animals. Krida Amargam. They would have been like playful dogs in front of you. They would have done whatever you wanted. And there is a famous proverb in English. Men rule the world, women rule the men. Men rule the world, women rule the men. So these few fellows were attached to you, and you would have done they would have done whatever you wanted. And but Rukmini starts like counteracting each one of them one by one in this particular verse. First thing she says is, when you say Niskinchan, you are actually Niskinchan. You don't possess anything. Why you don't possess anything? Because there is nothing existing outside you. Like I can say that I possess this bead bag because bead bag is not a part of my body. It is separate from my body. But if I say I possess this ear, anyway, it's like no. On a bodily conception, I am this ear. So soul conception things are different, but bodily conception of life. Oh, I am this ear. So if I say I possess this ear, what is so great about it? That is something expected. If I don't have ear, then it is like something unfortunate. So Rukmini says that as far as you are concerned, you are absolute whole. That is why Prabhupada writes here, no, Prabhupada is quoted here, basically not writes here. Prabhupada is quoted here. Conception of God and conception of absolute truth are totally different. Most of the people of the world are just caught up in the conception of God. God means an entity who is very powerful, very good in controlling everything. And certain religions even don't give that credit to God also. Like in particular traditions, what they say is God is all compassionate, but He is not all powerful. And that is the reason sometimes Satan comes and he causes tsunami, he causes earthquake, he causes so many unfortunate things. And God cannot do anything. But one day will come when God will win over Satan and all these calamities will go away. But then the people get a fear. What if Satan wins? Maybe if Satan wins, then there would be permanent tsunamis. So in certain traditions, these sort of conceptions or misconceptions are there. Because they don't even attribute the quality of being all controller to the God. But then there are many people who say, no, 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 our God is, He has full control. He is very compassionate. But then that is not the conception of absolute truth. Conception of absolute truth means nothing exists without Him. Now, certainly, within Vedic traditions, we have Brahmavadi and Paramatmavadis. Vadanti tat tattvadas tattvam yadganadvyam Brahmeti Paramatmiti Bhavaniti Satyate. So all these three personalities, they believe in concept of absolute truth. That there is nothing which exists beyond conception of absolute truth. Everything is there within. But then what happens is, even if we consider Lord as everything, like Brahman conception, He's absolute truth, everything is within Him. Still, Lord is lacking certain attributes. What is that attribute? That it's not just one attribute, so many attributes which even human beings have. having personality, having a form which is very attractive, displaying so many pastimes. And actually speaking, this is certain concept. So Paramatma concept means, okay, he's all pervading at the same time. He is creator, maintainer, and destroyer of this world. So three Vishnus, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Karnodaksha Vishnu, Chirodaksha Vishnu, they are called three Paramatmas. Chirodaksha Vishnu is Paramatma of individual living being. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is the Paramatma of entire universe. And Karnodaksha Vishnu is the Paramatma of entire creation, all material elements. So all three are called Paramatma. But they are in relationship with this world of creation, maintenance, destruction. There is hardly any talk about these three Vishnus interacting with devotees and having different pastimes. It's more attributed to Narayan and personalities in the spiritual world, which talks about Bhagavan feature. But even in Narayan, we have attributes of being that great personality who takes care of the servants, who accepts everyone's prayers, grants people's prayers. But when it comes to Krishna, Krishna is actually absolute truth. Because he has all the attributes which can be even imagined. He is all pervading as Brahman, which is effulgence. Like I can't say that no, I am different from my color. Now my body color, I am my bodily color also in bodily conception. I am bodily color. Similarly, Brahman is the effulgence of Krishna, not different from him. He has that attribute. His own expansion as Paramatma creates, maintains, and destroys this world. That attribute is also there. As Narayan, he has this rasa of Santaras and Dasaras. At the same time, he has other rasas of Sakharas, Vatsal, and Madhurras, which are not in anyone. So recently in our batch, in our Kharagpur group, we have some WhatsApp group, 2004 batch. So there are some devotees, they were asking a lot of questions that there are certain scriptures which say that na Shiva is supreme and you believe in your scripture and they believe in their scripture. And some people have this debate, like now Sri Vaishnava say that Lord Narayan or Vishnu is supreme, we say Krishna is supreme. All these sort of debates are there. And sometimes we have our quotations, they also have their quotations. And there's no end to it. There's no end to it. But there's one factor which everybody has to believe. And whole Vrindavan knows Rup Goswami for that. All Vaishnava traditions celebrate Rup Goswami for that. And that is where the Krishna is portrayed as a personality possessing all rasas. There's no one equal to him. There's no one equal to him. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is considered the greatest contribution by Gaudiya Vaishnavas for all other Vaishnava sects. That's why even today, if you whether you go to Barsana, you go to Nandagaon, you go to any place, they glorify Rup Goswami like anything. So they say we have a reason to not say that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what Rup Goswami has given us. Because nobody's pastimes are as attractive as Krishna's pastimes. Whether it is Narayan, whether it is Lord Vishnu, Lord Ram, or any other demigod. So nobody's pastimes are as good as Krishna's pastimes. I have gone to many temples, even Lord Vishnu's temples. Many temples where 10 avatar are there. But when it comes to inscriptions, it's like they beautifully make inscriptions. Some of the temples are so beautiful that each brick has an inscription. If we see this inscription, most of the inscriptions would be about Krishna's pastimes. Because Krishna is Rasraj. There is no doubt. Nobody can equal him. That's why God is powerful is certain attribute, but higher attribute is God is most attractive and he knows how to exchange with everyone. Because that is more relevant for the living entity than just being all powerful. Like somebody may be very powerful and we may like to have relationship with that person. But whom will we like to live with? Just a person who is very powerful or a person who can have loving exchanges with us? A person who is very sweet. So greatness of the Lord is certainly one attribute which makes him attractive, but certainly having a desire to live with a person will come only when we see God as the most sweetest person. Because many times we don't want to live with a person who is very great, we want to live with a person who is very sweet, not just a person who is very great. And that is definitely something which is there in Krishna, we don't find in anyone else. So Niskinchana. So Krishna has everything. So there's a difference between absolute truth and God. So absolute truth means he has everything which you can think of. That is meaning of absolute truth. And Prabhupada has mercifully given us that concept of being that Krishna is absolute truth. And Niskanchana Janapriya, which means I am dear to people who have nothing. So Rukmini says, all demigods worship you. Shiva Virinchi Nutam. Lord Shiva, Virinchi, Brahma, along with all demigods, they always worship you. And they are the people who have all powers, all wealth. Still they worship you. So how can you say that no, Niskancha Janapriya? But the Niskancha Janapriya also means people who are free from the concept of possessiveness, they actually love Krishna. Because they know Krishna is absolute truth. Everything belongs to Krishna. So in that sense, Krishna is Niskancha Janapriya. So because only thing which we can offer to Krishna is love. So Prabhupada also in his lectures and here also in the purport, this beautiful example is given. So Prabhupada would say, which is quoted here, if you take some water from Ganga, water of Ganga is not going to reduce. ऐसा नहीं water level down हो गया. And when we worship Ganga and we offer water back to Ganga, it is not that it's flood in Ganga. Ganga water is that much only. Doesn't make much difference. But there is one personality who gets benefit, and that is the worshipper. Similarly, everything belongs to Krishna, but when we offer those things to Krishna with love, we get the benefit of establishing our relationship further with Krishna. That is the benefit which we get. We strengthen our relationship with Krishna even more. So it is ultimately for the benefit of the worshipper, not for anyone else. So these are few things from the purport. 3 minutes are there. Somebody some question they may ask.
Hare Krishna Puji. Puji, as you told in Dwarka, Krishna was just as a minister, is the son. So why Krishna is called Dwarkadhish in Dwarka? Please explain that. Dwarkadhish.
There is a official head and there is a real head. You understand the difference? So there are some appointed leaders, you have to respect them. And there are natural leaders. So although Ugrasen was the king of Dwarka, I think 99% of the Indian population who know Krishna is Dwarkadhish may not be knowing even the name of Ugrasen. But there is an appointed leader and there is a natural leader. So Krishna is the natural leader of Dwarka. Nityam nirikshyamanam yadapi dwarakakasam Na vittipranti hidrsa sriyo dhamangam achitam. Nityam nirikshamanam. All Dwarkavasis will do nirikshan, carefully analyze Krishna's beauty from top to bottom. Yadapi Dwarakaksam. Akas means houses. So those who are having houses in Dwarka, they will every day seek drink Krishna's beauty from their eyes. Their eyes would turn like mouths, and they would drink Krishna's beauty in detail every day. Now with Tripanti Hidrasa, still they were never satiated. They will never think, "Arey, bahut to dekh liya, baat to daily dekhte hain." No. Sriyo Dhamangachchitam. Because he is the abode of beauty. So that is how he is naturally attractive. So Dwarkadis.
The concept of absolute truth as Brahman. Can you explain a little bit?
See, when we say absolute truth as Brahman means there's nothing beyond Brahman which exists in the world. It's like there are parallel worlds. Parallel worlds. Each one of us live in a different world. Each one of us. Like for people who are into Annamaya course, whole world they see as the place to eat. Like different people who come in a temple hall, you will find many devotees who are doing Duna cultivation now, they may be having this experience. Like, so different people come, they see temple in a different way. Like some donors come immediately, they may are businessmen, they may start seeing kitna kharcha hota hoga. Yahan, wahan, kitna construction. Similarly, some electricians come immediately, he will look at power consumption. How much power consumption is there, this, that, how many boards. So that is what he sees. Similarly, person who is Annamaya course, immediately he says, भोग को था, भोग को था. उसको भोगा भोगा ही देखता है. उसको लगता है कब कीर्तन खत्म होगा, कब भोगा मिलेगा. So they come with that concept. They are in Annamaya course. So similarly, people, but those who are devotees, they directly come and they take darshan of the Lord. So they are parallel worlds. So similarly, those personalities, those people who are in the Brahman realization, how they experience is Sarva Khalo Idam Brahman. Whole world is spiritual. Everything has come from that Brahman. So everything is Brahman. So they don't see the intermediate causes. They see, according to them, whatever is the absolute cause, that is Brahman. So that is how they see Brahman everywhere. Like Paramatma Vadi, they would see Paramatma in each and every atom. So they would see everywhere, 400 Vishnu form. So they see it like that. But those who are devotees, they see everything as Krishna's energy and Krishna is everywhere. So that is how different visions. Okay.
Devotees see Paramatma and Brahman both, as well as Bhagavan.
Devotees see everything. But when for them, the Bhagavan concept becomes so prominent that Brahman conception goes in background.
Okay.
Earlier, I would feel that they see everything parallelly. But Pankaj Prabhu and Janmashtami Prabhu, they had a common experience which they shared with me. So what they said is, for devotees also they gradually get Brahman, Paramatma and Bhavan realization. Because Janmashtami Prabhu was sharing with me and he was saying that what I feel around, is it Brahman realization? I said, I don't feel anything around. So how can I say? So then he was like, he was telling it is like that. And actually speaking from script, I was quoting and defeating him. Damodar Prabhu from Chopati also was doing same thing. He was a teacher before me. But then I asked this similar question to Pankajangi Prabhu. That was his last lecture which I heard before his departure. So he said that this is the actual conception, which is his realization also. So what I understand now, it's devotees also get it gradually. First, we see everything as according to our consciousness, different varieties of mental consciousness. Then we get purified. When we get purified, then we get see it like a Brahman realization. Sarva Khalodam Brahman. Then Paramatma realization that Lord is like is in every each and every atom. And then Bhagwan realization means we see everything in relationship to Krishna. I'll just end up with this one example. This is which I heard from Hanun Presak Maharaj. So he said that around 12 years ago, I won the war. So then you are wondering what did he won? He's a sannyasi. So it 12 years before, when I was moving down the streets, I think in Manhattan or somewhere. So he was moving from there. No, Nashville, I think. Nashville, he was saying Nashville. So he was moving from there. Then I saw the best, beautiful car I had ever seen. He saw a very beautiful car. And then he said that from one door, one very wealthy man came out. From other door, another woman came out. She's the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my entire life. But then immediate thought came to me, oh my God, if she's so beautiful, how beautiful Krishna must be. And then he said, I won the war. So that means that struggle is there, but when the realization comes, where we see everything in relationship with Krishna, that is success. That is Bhagavan realization. Should we end with this? Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shilpa Upad ki, Tagore Premanande, Shilpa Upad